I'm Kris Wilder-Egan. I'm 70 years old. I live here in Corvallis, Oregon, and decided to do a psilocybin journey. I'd like to tell you about it. A couple of people have asked me about the cost of the psilocybin journey because it is kind of expensive. But what I tell people is, how do I put a price tag on getting this much of my life back? You can't put a price tag on that. It's, invaluable. It's so huge. It's just been so huge. Like most women, my migraines started with puberty. It's estimated that 43% of women have migraines, which is almost half of us, 18% of men. So that tells you where the migraines are coming from. My migraines were very manageable until I hit menopause. And at that point, most women's migraines get much better. Mine got a lot worse and became chronic. It got to the point where with no preventative at all, I would have 5 to 7 migraines a week, almost one a day. Preventatives were helping, but what most of us find is that preventatives will work for a while and then stop working. You wind up increasing the dose to a point where either you're having side effects or it just stops working. So you try a different preventative. Whenever I go to a new neurologist, I take my list of what preventatives I've tried with me. It's a page and a half long. Most of it is off-label prescribing, but they found that it works for migraines. Botox, for example, was people who were having Botox for cosmetic reasons found that they were having fewer migraines. So eventually it was approved for migraines. And that's what most migraine people find, is that things will work for a while and then not work. What works well for me may not work for the next 10 people. It's one of the things that makes treatment so incredibly frustrating, because it's not like, a broken leg. You're going to set the leg and it's going to get better. That's going to be the same pattern for everybody. This is a different pattern for everybody. What brought me to psilocybin? I had done some research. Well, migraine people are always doing research on preventatives. And I'd done some research and found some articles that talked about psilocybin and migraines, and talked to the folks here at Unstuck. And they had read even more articles than I had. And it sounded like something that I really wanted to try. The preventative that I've been using has been working well, but not always great. And there were still so many triggers, so many things I can't do because it would trigger a migraine. So I really wanted to try something like this that might be a one treatment, and that would be the preventative. It hasn't turned out exactly that way, but it's turned out amazingly well. The actual journey was not like anything I expected at all. There's sort of a graph, if you want to think of it that way, of getting up to the peak of the journey and then going across for a while and then coming down. And going up was very fast for me. And going across the top is impossible to describe. It really, I don't want to use the phrase "it really opens your mind" because it's kind of a trite phrase, but it really did. It really expanded my worldview and a little bit of universal view. It was the downward part that I really had some interesting insights into my own life, things that have impacted me. There were several aha moments that, oh, yeah, that's why I do that way. I should think about something different. So it wasn't just the migraines. There were other things that have really affected my life because I came to understand some of my own reactions better. What has changed since the journey? Well, the migraines are the big one. I did the journey in early May. It's now October, and I've had 3 migraines. That's unbelievable. I've been able to do things this summer that I haven't been able to do in years. My husband and I went to a fireworks show this summer. I can't go to fireworks shows. Between the flashing lights and the noise, it was torture. And I sat through a half-hour fireworks show and walked away feeling fine. That's something that I can't do. A couple times I've had a little glass of wine. I can't drink wine. Wine is absolutely going to trigger a migraine. But a couple times I've had a little glass of wine and I've been fine with it. there's so many things. Even reading. If my head is feeling iffy, reading a book on paper, much less reading a book on an iPad or something, I just couldn't do. So what do? Sit and stare out the window? My husband has mentioned what a difference this has made in his life, because he can plan things now, like the fireworks show. He never would have planned that before. There's no way I could have done it. So it's expanded his life as much as mine, and both of us are happier. And we can plan things that I don't have to stop and think, no, I can't do that. I'll get a migraine. Now it's, yeah, I could probably do that. I might not get a migraine. And it's expanding into all the things that I can do now that I could never do before. I have huge chunks of my life back. Some of my childhood and some of the things that happened to me when I was a child, I didn't realize were still affecting me as much as they are. And some of my behaviors were in reaction to things that happened 60 years ago. And I didn't realize that until the journey took me to those places and helped me see that, yeah, when you do that, it's because you learned this from your parents or that from your sibling. And I can recognize that now. And when I start to react that way, I'm aware of it and I can say, oh, no, I don't have to react that way. I can modify my behavior because now I understand where that came from. And those insights weren't there before. So ways in which my husband's life has been impacted. A good example is a few years ago, he planned a birthday trip for me to a hot springs. And I had a migraine and I couldn't go in the hot spring because the hot water would have made it unbelievably worse. Now I can go to a hot springs. And for him to be able to plan things like that with me, for us to be able to do these things together, and because he doesn't have to stop and say, oh wait, she's not going to be able to do that. Now he can start to plan things and say, yeah, she'll be okay doing that. Might get a migraine, but probably not. So his, I don't want to say mood, but his attitude towards planning and doing things together, just for us to be able to both have a glass of wine together, is huge. It's a sharing piece of our marriage that is back, that we didn't have for a long time. And there's a lot of little pieces like that, things that we can do together, like going to a hot springs, that we couldn't do together before. And I would say, yeah, you go and I'll sit in the chair over here and watch. And that's pretty hard to do. And being able to do this stuff together has impacted both of us. And he didn't do a journey, but I guess in a way he's kind of gone on my journey with me. It's hard to emphasize what a huge change this has made in my life. I mean, I'm trying to get that because it's a huge change. It's massive. I was a little afraid in the beginning because I was afraid of losing control. And control's a little bit of an issue for me. But in talking to the facilitator and seeing the facility, I felt very comfortable. The journey itself, she was very caring and very present and very focused on my comfort and my well-being. And the entire time, I never felt alone or abandoned or, hey, you're on your own. I knew that someone was there taking care of me the whole time. The facility is bright and clean and lots of bathrooms. And I felt very comfortable. It was warm and, everything was physically comfortable and emotionally comfortable, I guess I would say. So once I got in here and got talking to the facilitator and realized what the environment was like, I was not afraid at all anymore. I felt very comfortable with the experience. And I'm so glad I did it. And I'm so glad I did it at Unstuck. It's the perfect place for me. Oh, I've been planning that one. Did you think I was going to pass that up?